You know, sometimes we spend years learning English and still become nervous when it is finally our turn to speak. You understand the question, you know many words, you may even know the grammar, but your mouth waits while your mind searches for the perfect sentence. So today, I want you to stop asking, how much English do I know? And start asking, how much English can I actually use? Because speaking does not become natural simply by knowing more. It becomes natural when you train yourself to use what you already know. Today I will give you 7 simple but powerful ways to do exactly that. Point 1. Stop learning English only with your eyes. Train your voice. Many English learners are doing something that feels like practice. But when the moment comes to speak, it does not help enough. You watch English videos every day. You read English posts. You learn vocabulary. You understand your teacher. Sometimes you even understand an entire conversation. Then someone suddenly asks you, "So, what do you think?" And your mind says, "I know this." But your mouth says nothing. Why? Because understanding English and producing English are 2 different jobs. Think about learning to drive. You can sit beside a driver for years. You can watch when they brake, when they turn, and how they change gears. You may understand exactly what they are doing. But the first time you sit behind the wheel yourself, everything feels different. Why? Because watching trained your understanding, driving trains your response. English speaking works in a similar way. If most of your English enters through your eyes and ears, but very little comes out through your mouth, your understanding can become much stronger than your speaking. So from today, I want you to change one rule. Every day, some of your English must come out of your mouth. And please do not wait until you have a speaking partner. Your room can become your first speaking space. When you wake up, instead of only thinking about your day, say, "I didn't sleep very well last night, so I feel a little tired this morning," while making breakfast. "I'm making tea now. After this, I need to finish some work, and then I want to go outside for a while." When something annoys you, "I don't like what happened because I was expecting something different." When you make a decision, "I think I'll do this tomorrow because I don't have enough time today." These sentences may look simple. Good. Simple English is exactly where speaking automaticity begins. A learner often makes this mistake. They refuse to practice easy sentences because they think, "I already know this." But knowing a sentence is not the same as being able to produce it immediately. You may know, "I don't feel like going out today." But can that sentence come naturally when you need it? You may understand, "It depends on the situation." But can your mouth produce it immediately during a conversation? You may recognize, "I haven't thought about that before." But when somebody surprises you with a question, does that phrase appear automatically? That is the difference between English you know and English you can use. So here is a powerful exercise. Choose one ordinary activity every day and become its English narrator. While cooking, speak, "I'm cutting the vegetables. I think I added too much salt yesterday, so today I'm going to use less." While walking, "It's much quieter than yesterday. There aren't many people outside, and the weather feels better today." While cleaning, "I've been avoiding this for 3 days, but I finally decided to do it." Now you are not memorizing somebody else's English. You are creating English from your own life. And that matters because these are thoughts you genuinely need. Then take the exercise one step further. Do not only describe what you are doing. Explain why. Instead of, "I'm going to the shop," say, "I'm going to the shop because I need a few things for dinner." Then add another thought. "I was going to go earlier, but I became busy, so I'm going now." One sentence became 3. Your brain is learning to connect ideas while your mouth keeps moving. Now imagine doing this for 10 minutes every day. That is 70 minutes of actual spoken English every week. Over several months, that becomes hours of practice in finding words, building sentences, connecting ideas, correcting yourself, and continuing after mistakes. This is the practice many learners are missing. And there is one rule I want you to follow during these 10 minutes. Do not restart every time you make a mistake. If you say, "Yesterday I go," "Sorry, I went to the market," continue. Do not return to the beginning. Real conversation does not have a restart button. Your goal is to teach yourself. A mistake does not end my sentence. That lesson is incredibly important because confidence does not come only from producing correct English. Confidence also comes from discovering that when your English becomes imperfect, you can still continue. So today, do not ask yourself, "How many new English words did I learn?" Ask, "How many minutes did I actually speak?" Even 5 minutes matters. Speak about what you see. Speak about what you are doing. Explain what you think. Tell yourself what happened yesterday. Describe what you want tomorrow. And if you do not know a difficult word, use an easier one and keep moving. Because your English speaking will not become stronger by spending your entire journey silently preparing to speak someday. There has to be a day when the English inside your head finally gets a voice. Make today that day. Point 2. Stop collecting words. Train the phrases your mouth actually needs. Many learners have hundreds, sometimes thousands of English words in their memory. But when a real conversation begins, they still speak with the same small group of sentences. Why? Because knowing a word is not the same as knowing how to use it quickly. You may know the word prefer, but when someone asks, "Would you rather work from home or in an office?" your mind becomes busy building the answer. Instead of learning only prefer, train your mouth with, "I personally prefer," "I would probably prefer," "I prefer this because," "If I had to choose, I would prefer." Now the word is no longer sitting alone in your memory. It has become something you can actually speak. And this is where many learners waste enormous amounts of effort. Every day they open a vocabulary list and learn 10, 20, sometimes 50 new words. They feel productive because the list is growing, but ask them a simple question. "How was your weekend?" And suddenly they cannot find a natural way to begin. This is why I want you to change the way you collect English. Do not only collect words, collect speaking pieces, small groups of words that help you start, continue, explain, disagree, remember, hesitate, and respond. For example, instead of memorizing only the word opinion, practice, "In my opinion," "From my point of view," "The way I see it." Now someone asks, "Do you think social media is good for young people?" You already have a doorway. The way I see it, social media can be useful, but it depends on how people use it. The beginning came quickly because you did not build it word by word. Now imagine someone asks a question, and you need time to think. Many learners panic because silence feels uncomfortable. Train these phrases. "That's an interesting question. I've never really thought about that before. Let me think about that for a second." The first thing that comes to mind is, now you have something extremely valuable. Thinking time in English. Instead of becoming completely silent while your brain searches for an answer, you remain inside the conversation. Suppose somebody asks, "What is one decision that changed your life?" You do not know immediately. Instead of freezing, "I've never really thought about that before," but the first thing that comes to mind is, now your mouth is already moving while your brain prepares the real answer. That is practical fluency. And you need phrases for moments when you disagree too. Do not memorize only disagree. Train. "I'm not sure I agree with that." "I understand your point, but I see it a little differently." That may be true, but I think. Now disagreement becomes easier because the opening is already available. The same thing works when you cannot explain yourself clearly. Train. What I'm trying to say is, what I mean is, let me explain it another way. These phrases can rescue you in real conversations. Imagine you begin an answer and realize the other person does not understand. Do not panic. Say, let me explain it another way, then use simpler English. That is a speaking skill. Now here is the practice I want you to begin today. Choose only 5 useful phrases. Not 50. 5. For example, the way I see it, the reason is. For example, what I mean is. It depends on. Say each phrase aloud several times. But do not stop there. Complete it differently every time. The reason is that I don't have enough time. The reason is that I want to improve. The reason is that it makes me feel more confident. Then, it depends on the situation. It depends on how much time I have. It depends on what the other person wants. Now your mouth is learning a reusable pattern. Tomorrow, take those same phrases and use them while answering real questions. Do you enjoy learning English? Yes, I do. The reason is that English gives me access to more information. For example, I can understand videos and articles that I couldn't understand before. You just used 2 of your speaking pieces naturally, and this is what I want you to understand. You do not need to create every sentence from nothing. Real speakers use familiar patterns again and again. The topic changes, the meaning changes, but many useful structures remain available. That is why your goal should not be, how many English words can I memorize? Your goal should become, how much useful English can I make ready for conversation? Because when the conversation starts, you do not have 10 minutes to search through everything you have ever studied. You need English that is close enough to reach. So build a small bank of phrases. Use them aloud, change them, connect them, put them into questions you genuinely might be asked, and keep repeating them until one day somebody asks for your opinion, and the way I see it comes out before you even consciously search for it. That is when vocabulary begins turning into speaking. And remember, 20 words sitting silently in your notebook cannot help a conversation as much as 5 useful phrases your mouth knows how to use. Point 3. Stop listening like a student. Start listening like a speaker. Many learners tell me, I listen to English every day, but I still cannot speak naturally. And sometimes I ask them a simple question. When you listen, what are you actually doing? Usually, they are trying to understand. They watch a video. They follow the meaning. They understand the story. They finish the video and feel happy because they understood almost everything. That is good for listening. But if your goal is speaking, understanding cannot be the end of the exercise. You need to start asking, how did that person say it? Because there is a huge difference between understanding a natural English sentence and being able to produce something similar yourself. You may hear, I didn't expect that to happen. You understand it immediately. But tomorrow, when something surprises you, will that sentence come out naturally? Maybe not. So this time, do not just listen and move on. Pause. Say it. I didn't expect that to happen. Again. I didn't expect that to happen. Now change one part. I didn't expect him to say that. I didn't expect the meeting to take so long. I didn't expect things to change so quickly. Now something important is happening. You are no longer only listening to English. You are borrowing a natural pattern and teaching your mouth how to use it. This is one of the most effective ways to make spoken English feel less foreign. Choose a short clip from a podcast, interview, lesson, or conversation. Do not choose 10 minutes. Start with 20 or 30 seconds. Listen to one sentence. Pause, repeat it, then listen again. This time, pay attention to the music of the sentence. Where does the speaker slow down? Which word sounds stronger? Where is the pause? Which words seem to join together? Because natural English is not spoken like this. I do not know what you mean. It flows. I don't know what you mean. Your mouth needs experience with that flow. And please, do not make this about copying somebody's accent perfectly. That is not the goal. Your goal is to train clarity, rhythm, and ease. Suppose you hear, "To be honest, I haven't really thought about it." That is a beautiful speaking phrase because it gives you time while sounding completely natural. Repeat it, then make it yours. To be honest, I haven't really thought about that. To be honest, I haven't decided yet. To be honest, I'm not completely sure. Now imagine somebody unexpectedly asks, "Where would you like to live in the future?" Instead of freezing, your mouth already knows. To be honest, I haven't really thought about it, but I would probably choose somewhere quiet. That is how listening begins, helping speaking. Not because you heard more English, because you reused what you heard. Now here is a simple routine I want you to practice. Listen, pause, copy, change, use. Listen to one natural sentence, pause the audio, copy it aloud 3 or 4 times. Change 1 or 2 words. Then use the pattern to say something true about your own life. For example, you hear, "I've been trying to get better at managing my time." Copy it, then change it. "I've been trying to get better at speaking English." "I've been trying to get better at waking up early." "I've been trying to get better at expressing my ideas clearly." Now the sentence belongs to you. This is much more powerful than listening to an hour of English and never opening your mouth. And there is another mistake I want you to avoid. Do not choose English that is far above your level. If you barely understand the sentence, you will spend all your energy decoding it. Choose English that you mostly understand but cannot yet produce naturally. That is your training zone. You should be able to hear a sentence and think, "I understand that. I just wouldn't have said it that way myself." Perfect. That is exactly the English you want to steal for your speaking. And when I say steal, I mean learn the pattern, not memorize an entire person's speech. Take the useful structure. Use it with your own ideas. If you hear, "One of the reasons I enjoy it is," use, "One of the reasons I enjoy learning English is that I can communicate with more people." If you hear, "The difficult thing about it is," use, "The difficult thing about speaking English is finding words quickly." If you hear, "What surprised me most was," use, "What surprised me most was how quickly I started understanding more." These are the kinds of patterns that make longer speaking easier because they give your thoughts somewhere to begin. Now imagine doing this with only 3 sentences every day. 3 sentences. That sounds small. But in 1 month, you will have trained around 90 pieces of natural spoken English. And because you did not only read them, but heard them, repeated them, changed them, and used them, they have a much better chance of becoming available when you actually speak. So tomorrow, when you listen to English, do not only celebrate, "I understood that." Go one step further. Pause the video, open your mouth, copy one sentence, feel its rhythm, change it, make it personal, use it again later without looking. Because listening teaches you what English sounds like, but imitation teaches your mouth how to participate in that sound. And that is the change I want for you. Do not remain only the person who understands the conversation. Train yourself to become the person who can join it. Point 4. Stop letting one missing word kill the whole conversation. There is a moment almost every English learner knows. You are speaking well. Your first sentence comes easily. Your second sentence is fine. You know exactly what you want to explain. And then suddenly you reach one word you cannot remember, and everything stops. You look away. You search your memory. You translate the word again and again. You know you have learned it before, but somehow it refuses to come. Then you say, "Sorry, I don't know how to say it in English." And the conversation that was moving beautifully suddenly dies because of one missing word. My friend, listen carefully. You do not need every word to keep speaking English. You need the ability to keep communicating when the perfect word is missing. That is a completely different skill. And once you learn it, your speaking becomes much stronger because you stop giving individual words so much power over your voice. Imagine you want to say, "My neighbor is very generous," but you forget the word generous. The old habit says, "What is that word? Generous? Generous. I forgot." The new habit says, "My neighbor is the kind of person who is always ready to give something or help someone." You forgot the word, but did communication stop? No. In fact, you explained the meaning beautifully. Suppose you forget exhausted. Say, "I was extremely tired. I had almost no energy left." Forgot appointment. Say, "I have a meeting with my doctor tomorrow morning." Forgot embarrassed. Say, "I felt very uncomfortable because everyone was looking at me after I made the mistake." Forgot stubborn. Say, "He doesn't easily change his mind, even when other people give him good reasons." This is one of the most valuable speaking habits you can develop. If the word does not come, explain the meaning, because real communication is not a vocabulary test. Nobody is standing in front of you with a red pen saying, "Wrong. You were supposed to use this exact word." The person simply wants to understand you. So help them understand. Now I want you to see why this problem happens so often. Many learners practice vocabulary like this: English word, meaning, translation, next word, English word, meaning, translation, next word. This trains recognition. But conversation asks you to do something different. It asks you to retrieve language quickly while another person is waiting. And sometimes retrieval fails. Even words you know can temporarily disappear. That does not mean the word is gone forever. It means your brain could not access it quickly enough at that moment. So instead of treating that moment as an emergency, train a backup route. I call this the explain it another way habit. Whenever you cannot say something directly, ask yourself, how would I explain this using easier English? Suppose you cannot remember the word deadline. You could say, "The final day when I have to finish the work. Forgot refund." I bought something, but I returned it and asked the company to give my money back. Forgot landlord. The person who owns the house I am renting. Forgot ingredient. One of the things you use to make a particular food. Look at what your brain is doing. It is becoming flexible. And flexibility is one of the hidden foundations of fluent speaking. A learner who knows 10,000 words but freezes whenever one word disappears can struggle more than a learner who knows fewer words but can explain ideas in different ways. Think about that. You do not always need more English. Sometimes you need to become more creative with the English you already have. And this does something wonderful for your confidence. When you believe, "If I forget a word, the conversation is over." Every conversation feels dangerous. You are constantly worried. What if I forget something? But when you know, "If I forget the word, I can explain it," the fear becomes smaller. You no longer need perfect memory to feel safe. You have another road, and I want you to deliberately train this road before you need it in a real conversation. Here is a simple exercise. Look around your room. Choose an object, but you are not allowed to say its name. Suppose you choose a refrigerator. You cannot say refrigerator. Explain it. It is a large machine in the kitchen. We put food and drinks inside it to keep them cold. Easy. Now choose a charger. It is something I connect to my phone when the battery is low. A pillow. It is something soft that I put under my head when I sleep. A remote control. It is a small device I use to change channels or control the television without touching it. Now move beyond objects. Explain feelings without using the exact word. Do not say nervous. It is the feeling you have when something important is about to happen, and you are worried that you may make a mistake. Do not say proud. It is how you feel when you have done something difficult and you are happy with yourself. Do not say disappointed. It is the feeling you have when you expected something good to happen, but it did not happen. Now your brain is learning something much more useful than vocabulary alone. It is learning how to build meaning, and meaning is what conversation needs. Now let us make this even more practical. Sometimes you do not forget a single word. Sometimes the whole sentence feels too difficult. You know what you want to say, but you are trying to translate a complicated sentence from your first language into English. Your mind becomes overloaded. In that moment, do not fight with the difficult sentence. Break the idea into smaller sentences. Maybe you want to say something like, although I initially intended to attend the event, several unexpected responsibilities prevented me from doing so. But that sentence is too difficult for you to produce naturally. Do not struggle. Say, I wanted to go to the event, but something unexpected happened. I had some important things to do, so I couldn't go. Same basic message, much easier English, and the conversation continues. This is something I want every learner to understand. Simple English is not failed English. If simple English communicates your meaning clearly, it has done its job. You can improve the sophistication later. First, protect the conversation. Suppose someone asks, why didn't you accept the job? You have a complicated thought in your mind about long-term professional development, work-life balance, and limited opportunities for advancement. But you cannot build that beautiful sentence quickly. Start simply. There were a few reasons. The salary was okay, but I didn't think the job was right for my future. Now continue. I wanted something where I could learn more and have better opportunities later. Then, also, the working hours were difficult for me. You communicated. Maybe later you will learn career progression, professional development, work-life balance. Wonderful. But you did not need those phrases to have the conversation today. That is the mindset I want you to develop. Use the English you have while you build the English you want. Do not silence today's voice because you are waiting for tomorrow's vocabulary. Now there is another powerful technique that can save you when you get stuck. Learn a few rescue phrases. These are phrases that allow you to stay inside the conversation while reorganizing your thought. For example, what I'm trying to say is, let me explain it another way. I don't know the exact word, but it's something like, what I mean is, I can't remember what it's called, but these phrases are incredibly useful. Imagine you say, I went to the, I don't remember the word. Instead of becoming silent, I can't remember what it's called, but it's the place where you go to send a package. The other person says, the post office? You say, yes, the post office. Conversation continues, and something else happened. You may remember post office much better next time because you needed it in a real communicative moment. Now imagine you are explaining an opinion and your sentence becomes confusing. Say, let me explain that another way. Then restart only the idea, not the entire conversation. For example, I think people should, sometimes technology can, let me explain that another way. I think technology is useful, but people need to control how much time they spend using it. That sounds completely acceptable. You recovered. And recovery is one of the skills learners rarely practice. They practice correct sentences. But real speaking also requires forgetting, changing direction, correcting yourself, simplifying, explaining, and continuing. You need to train those moments too, because the strongest speaker is not the person who never experiences difficulty. It is the person who knows what to do when difficulty appears. Now I want to give you another exercise. I call it the forbidden word challenge. Choose an easy topic. For example, my morning. Now choose 3 common words you are not allowed to use. Maybe, wake up, breakfast, work. Now explain your morning without those words. You might say, I usually leave my bed around 7. The first thing I do is drink some water. After that, I prepare something to eat. Then I get ready and start the things I need to do for the day. Why is this exercise useful? Because it forces your brain to stop depending on one expression. You begin discovering, I can say the same idea in different ways. That realization is powerful. Now do it with opinions. Topic: why is exercise important? Forbidden words: healthy, body, strong. Now explain. I think regular exercise is important because it helps people feel better physically and gives them more energy. It can also improve the way they feel mentally, especially when they spend most of the day sitting. You found another road. This is exactly the flexibility real conversation requires. Now let us talk about translation. Translation becomes dangerous when you believe the English sentence must perfectly match the sentence inside your first language. You create a beautiful thought in your language. Then you try to carry every detail into English. One expression does not translate naturally. You stop. Instead, ask yourself, what is the message? Not, what are the exact English words for this sentence, but what am I actually trying to tell this person? Maybe the message is, I regret not taking the opportunity. But you cannot remember regret. Say, I had the opportunity, but I didn't take it. Now I wish I had. Beautiful. You communicated the same feeling without the word regret. Maybe you cannot remember overwhelmed. Say, there were so many things happening at the same time that I didn't know what to deal with first. In fact, sometimes explaining the idea makes your English more expressive than simply using one advanced word. This is why vocabulary should support your communication, not control it. Now I want you to build another habit. Whenever you learn a new word, learn one simple way to explain it. Learn. Reliable. Someone you can trust to do what they promised. Hesitate. To wait because you are not sure what to do. Frustrated. Annoyed because something is not working the way you want. Afford. To have enough money to pay for something. Recommend. To tell someone you think something is good and they should try it. Why? Because now the word is connected to meaning in English, not only translation, and if the word disappears during conversation, the meaning may still be available. That gives you a backup. Now here is another situation. Sometimes you know the word, but you are not sure whether your pronunciation is correct. Many learners stop because they think, what if I pronounce this wrong? If the word is necessary, try it. If the person does not understand, explain. Do not allow pronunciation uncertainty to silence the entire idea. You can say, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing this correctly, but then continue. Communication is allowed to be imperfect. In fact, real conversations are full of repairs. People say, sorry, what I meant was. No, let me say that again. That's not exactly what I mean. How can I explain this? Native and highly proficient speakers also reformulate thoughts. The difference is that they do not interpret every repair as failure. Neither should you. Now let us practice a real conversation. Someone asks, what kind of people do you enjoy spending time with? You begin. I like people who are, the word open-minded disappears. Old response, silence. New response, I can't remember the exact word, but I mean people who are willing to listen to different ideas and don't immediately judge something just because it is different. Excellent. Then maybe the word comes. Open-minded, that's the word. Continue. Yes. I enjoy being around open-minded people because conversations with them feel more interesting. You recovered. Now another. Why did you leave your previous job? You want work environment, but cannot remember it. Say, the job itself was fine, but I didn't really like the situation in the office or the way people worked together. The listener understands. Continue. Do not stop the entire answer because one expression disappeared. This is the skill. Now here is your daily practice for point 4. Take 5 minutes. Choose 5 random objects, emotions, actions, or ideas. Explain each one without saying its name. Then take another 5 minutes and answer one question. During that answer, deliberately pretend you have forgotten an important word. Explain around it. For example, what do you like about your best friend? Pretend you cannot use kind. Explain. One thing I really like is that this person always thinks about other people's feelings and tries to help when someone is having a difficult time. Now pretend you cannot use honest. I also know this person will tell me the truth, even when the truth is not what I want to hear. This is powerful speaking training. You are teaching your brain. I do not need the perfect word to keep going. And the more often you prove that to yourself, the calmer you become in real conversations. Because think about what confidence really means. Confidence is not, I know I will remember every word. That is impossible. Confidence is, even if I forget something, I know what to do. That is much stronger. You are no longer confident because nothing can go wrong. You are confident because when something goes wrong, you can recover. And that is the kind of confidence I want you to build in English. So the next time you are speaking and one word disappears, do not let your face change. Do not apologize 10 times. Do not abandon the answer. Stay with the meaning. Explain what the thing does. Describe what it looks like. Say when people use it. Give an example. Use an easier word. Break the sentence into 2 smaller sentences. Say, what I mean is, and keep moving, because every time you do this, you are teaching yourself a powerful lesson. My English is bigger than the word I just forgot. One missing word does not mean you have forgotten English. One difficult sentence does not mean you cannot communicate. One pause does not mean the conversation is over. There is almost always another way to say what you mean. Find that way. Use it, and continue. Because real fluency is not having every word ready at every moment. Real fluency is refusing to lose your entire voice just because one word went missing. Point 5. Stop giving one-sentence answers. Train yourself to keep the conversation alive. Many English learners think their biggest problem is starting a conversation. But sometimes starting is not the real problem. You can answer, where are you from? I'm from Pakistan. You can answer, what do you do? I work online. You can answer, do you like learning English? Yes, I do. Your English is correct. But then the other person asks, why? Or, tell me more about that. And suddenly the easy conversation becomes difficult. You knew how to answer the question, but you did not know how to continue the thought. This is where many learners misunderstand fluency. Fluency is not only the ability to give a correct answer, it is the ability to develop that answer naturally. So today, I want you to stop training English as question, answer, stop. Start training it as question, answer, reason, detail, example, experience, return. That small change can completely transform the way you speak. Suppose someone asks, do you enjoy learning English? You could say, yes, I do. Correct. But the conversation now depends completely on the other person asking another question. Instead, train yourself to add something. Yes, I do. I especially enjoy learning spoken English because I want to communicate more naturally with people. Already better. Now add a reason. One reason I enjoy it is that every time I understand something I couldn't understand before, I can actually feel my progress. Add an example. For example, sometimes I watch a video and suddenly understand an expression that used to confuse me. Add something personal. Those small moments motivate me because they remind me that even when progress feels slow, something is changing. Look at the difference. You did not suddenly learn hundreds of new words. You simply learned to stay with one idea longer. That is a speaking skill, and it is one of the most important skills you can practice if you want real conversations instead of short question and answer exchanges. Now I want to give you a simple rule. Whenever you answer a question, silently ask yourself, what can I add? Not, what difficult vocabulary can I use? Not, how can I make this grammatically impressive? Just, what can I add? Maybe you can add why. Maybe you can add when. Maybe you can add where. Maybe you can add how you felt. Maybe you can add an example. Maybe you can compare the past with the present. These are doors, and every time your answer feels too short, you can open one. Let us practice. Someone asks, what do you usually do on weekends? First answer, I usually stay at home. Now ask, why? I usually stay at home because my weekdays are quite busy, so I like having some quiet time. Now ask, what do you do at home? I normally watch something, spend time with my family, and sometimes catch up on things I didn't have time to do during the week. Now add a contrast. But if the weather is nice, I sometimes go out with friends. Now your answer sounds like conversation. You are not speaking for a long time, simply to show that you can speak. You are giving the listener something to respond to. That is important, because good conversation is not a speech competition. You do not need to talk for 5 minutes after every question. Sometimes 2 or 3 connected sentences are enough. The goal is to stop making every answer feel like a closed door. Give the other person something they can pick up. For example, what did you do yesterday? Do not only say, I worked. Say, I worked most of the day, but in the evening I went out because I needed a break. I actually found a really nice place near my home that I hadn't visited before. Now the other person can ask, what kind of place? Did you enjoy it? Who did you go with? Your answer created possibilities. That is how conversations stay alive. Now let us talk about a very common problem. Some learners know they should give longer answers, so they try to say everything at once. Someone asks, what do you like about your city? And immediately they begin searching for 5 ideas: food, people, weather, transport, culture. Now their brain becomes overloaded before the first sentence is finished. You do not need 5 ideas. Choose one and develop it. For example, one thing I really like about my city is the food. Good. Now explain. There are so many different places to eat, and you can find something good without spending too much money. Example. For example, there are small local places that don't look very special from outside, but the food can be amazing. Personal connection. I especially enjoy going to those places with friends because it becomes more than just eating. It becomes time together. You just created a strong answer from one idea. This is much easier than desperately searching for several new ideas while speaking. Remember, longer speaking does not always require more ideas. It often requires more depth. Take one thought and stay with it. If you say, I like mornings. Why? Because I can think more clearly in the morning. What does that mean? Before the day becomes busy, I feel like my mind is quieter. Give an example. If I have something difficult to write or study, I usually prefer doing it early because I can concentrate better. Compare. At night, I can still work, but I get distracted much more easily. Conclusion. So for me, mornings are the best time to do anything that requires real concentration. One simple idea became a complete answer. This is exactly what you need to train. Now let me give you another powerful technique. I call it the 3-layer answer. Every time someone asks you a question, try to build 3 layers. Layer 1, give the answer. Layer 2, explain the answer. Layer 3, make it real with an example or experience. Question: do you prefer studying alone or with other people? Layer 1, I usually prefer studying alone. Layer 2, the main reason is that I can control my own pace and spend more time on the things I find difficult. Layer 3, for example, when I study with other people, sometimes they want to move to the next topic while I still need another 10 minutes to understand something. That is enough. You did not need advanced vocabulary. You needed structure. Now another. Why are you learning English? Layer 1. I'm learning English because I want to communicate more confidently. Layer 2. I can understand quite a lot already, but sometimes I cannot express my thoughts as clearly as I want. Layer 3. For example, I may know exactly what I want to say in my own language, but during an English conversation, I sometimes make the idea much shorter because I cannot find the words quickly enough. That answer feels personal, it feels complete, and most importantly, it trains you to go beyond the first sentence. Now I want you to practice another habit. Never finish an answer without giving yourself one follow-up question. You are practicing alone. Ask, what food do you like? Answer, I really like traditional food. Do not stop. Ask yourself, why? Answer, then, how often do you eat it? Answer, then, can you cook it yourself? Answer, then, when did you last have it? Answer. Now you are creating a conversation with yourself. This may feel strange at first, but remember, you are not pretending to have a friend in the room. You are training your brain to respond to changing questions without preparing every answer. That is extremely useful, because real conversations are unpredictable. Someone may begin by asking about food and suddenly ask, do you enjoy cooking? Then, who taught you? Then, what is the most difficult thing you can cook? Your speaking needs flexibility, so give yourself follow-up questions. Do not always know what is coming next. Now here is another technique that can make this even more powerful. Choose one simple answer and practice expanding it to different lengths. Question: do you like traveling? Your 5-second answer: yes, I do. I really enjoy visiting new places. Your 20-second answer: yes, I really enjoy traveling because I like seeing how people live in different places. Even visiting another city can be interesting because the food, environment, and daily life can feel different. Your 1-minute answer: yes, I really enjoy traveling because I think being in a new place changes the way you see things. When you stay in the same environment for a long time, your routine starts to feel normal and you don't think about it very much. But when you visit somewhere different, you notice different food, different habits, different ways people communicate, and even different ways people organize their day. I think that makes traveling interesting for me. It is not only about taking pictures or seeing famous places. I enjoy the experience of being somewhere unfamiliar and learning something from it. Same question, same person, same English, different depth. This teaches you something incredibly important. You control the size of your answer. You are no longer trapped between two extremes, one sentence, or a long, complicated speech. You learn how to expand according to the situation. That is real conversational control. Now let us work on the moment when you have already given your answer but cannot think of anything else. Use these 5 questions inside your mind. Why? For example, when? What happened? How did I feel? These questions can rescue an answer. Suppose you say, I used to be very shy about speaking English. You feel stuck. Ask, Why? Because I was afraid people would notice my mistakes. Ask, for example, sometimes I knew the answer in class, but I didn't raise my hand because I was worried about saying something incorrectly. Ask, what happened? Later I realized that staying silent was not helping me improve. Ask, how did I feel? At first, speaking more often was uncomfortable, but gradually I became less afraid of mistakes. Now you have a story. You did not memorize it. You discovered it by asking simple questions. This is why I tell learners, when you do not know what to say next, sometimes you do not need another English word. You need another question. A good internal question creates the next idea. Now let us take this into real speaking practice. Every day, choose one topic, not 10. 1. Maybe my family, my work, my hometown, a difficult decision, something I want to improve, my favorite way to relax, a place I would like to visit. Set a timer for 2 minutes. Begin with one simple sentence. Then use the questions. Why? Can I give an example? What happened? What changed? How do I feel about it now? If you become silent, look at those questions, but do not write your full answer beforehand. Because if you write everything first and then read it aloud, you are training reading. If you memorize everything first, you are training memory. But if you begin with only a topic and create the answer while speaking, you are training spoken production. That is what you need. And there is something else I want you to stop doing. Do not judge your answer while you are still giving it. Many learners say one sentence and immediately think, was that grammar correct? Then they say another, was my pronunciation okay? Then, maybe I should have used a better word. You are trying to be the speaker and the examiner at the same time. That is exhausting. During speaking practice, give yourself permission to finish the idea first. Afterward, you can review. Finish the story. Finish the explanation. Finish the opinion. Then look at the mistakes. This helps you build flow without abandoning accuracy. You need both, but they do not always need to happen in the same second. Now imagine someone asks, what is something you have learned recently? You answer, I've learned that consistency is more important than motivation. Do not stop. Why? Because motivation changes from day to day. Example, there are days when I really want to practice English and other days when I don't feel like doing anything. What have you learned from that? I realized that if I only practice when I feel motivated, my progress becomes very irregular. What do you do now? So now I try to do at least a small amount, even on difficult days. Conclusion? For me, doing something small consistently has become more useful than waiting for the perfect mood. That is a beautiful answer. And look at the vocabulary. Nothing extraordinary. The power came from the development of the thought. This is exactly why you should stop believing that longer speaking requires advanced English. You can create meaningful, interesting answers using ordinary words if you learn how to develop an idea. Now I want to give you a challenge. For the next 7 days, whenever you practice speaking English, ban yourself from giving only one sentence. Every answer must have at least 3 connected parts. Answer, reason, example, or detail. Someone asks, do you like mornings? Do not say, yes. Say, yes, I do. I feel much more focused in the morning because my mind is fresh. For example, if I need to study something difficult, I usually try to do it before the afternoon. Someone asks, do you enjoy movies? Yes, especially movies based on real stories. I enjoy them because I like learning about things that actually happened. Sometimes after watching one, I even search for the real story because I want to know which parts were true. Someone asks, would you like to live abroad? Maybe for a few years. I think it would be interesting because I would experience a different culture and become more independent. But I don't know whether I would want to stay away from my family permanently. Notice what is happening. Your answers are becoming conversational. You are giving the listener material. You are expressing personality. You are no longer merely proving, "Yes, I understood your question." You are communicating, "This is what I think." And that is the whole purpose of speaking. Now, there will be moments when the other person interrupts you. Good. That means it is a conversation. You do not have to finish your prepared answer. Listen. Respond. Maybe they ask, "Really? Why?" Wonderful. You have already trained why. Maybe they say, "That happened to me too." Now ask them, "Really? What happened?" This is another important lesson. Speaking English is not only about producing longer answers, it is also about helping the other person speak. So train a few natural follow-up questions. What about you? Why do you think that? How did that happen? What was it like? How did you feel about that? What happened next? Now you are not carrying the entire conversation alone. You are creating movement between two people. That is what real fluency feels like. Not a perfect monologue, a living exchange. And slowly, something begins to change. At first, when someone asks you a question, your only goal is to survive the answer. Later, you begin adding details, then examples, then opinions, then stories. Then you start asking questions back. And one day you realize you are no longer waiting for the conversation to end. You are participating in it. That is a beautiful stage in language learning, because your English has stopped being something you only demonstrate. It has become something you use to connect with another human being. So today, choose 5 questions. Answer each one aloud. But do not allow yourself to stop after the first sentence. Give the answer. Tell me why. Give me a detail. Show me an example. Tell me what happened. Tell me how you felt. And when you think you are finished, ask yourself, can I add one more meaningful sentence? Not because longer is always better, but because right now you are teaching your brain not to run away after the safest answer. You are teaching it to stay, to develop, to explain, to connect. And remember this, a conversation does not become fluent because every sentence is perfect. It becomes fluent because one thought knows how to lead naturally into the next. So stop training yourself only to answer English questions. Train yourself to keep the conversation alive after the answer. Point 6. Record your voice and turn your own speaking into your best English teacher. There is something many English learners avoid, even though it can completely change the way they practice speaking. They are willing to listen to other people. They are willing to watch English videos. They are willing to read books, study vocabulary, and repeat sentences. But when I tell them, record your own voice and listen to yourself, they immediately become uncomfortable. They say, I don't like hearing my voice. My English sounds terrible. My accent sounds strange. I make too many mistakes. And sometimes they record themselves once, listen for 10 seconds, feel embarrassed, and never do it again. But my friend, the voice you are avoiding is exactly the voice you are trying to improve. If you never listen to yourself, how will you discover what actually happens when you speak? Because what you think you sound like while speaking and what you actually hear afterward can be very different. While you are speaking, your brain is busy. It is searching for words, building sentences, remembering grammar, thinking about pronunciation, deciding what to say next. Because so many things are happening at the same time, you may not notice your speaking habits clearly, but the recording notices everything. It shows you where you pause, where you repeat yourself, where your pronunciation becomes unclear, where you speak too quickly, where you keep using the same words, where your sentence breaks because you tried to make it too complicated. And most importantly, it can show you something learners often forget to notice: how much you are actually improving. So I want you to stop treating your recording like an examination. Treat it like a mirror. When you look into a mirror, the mirror does not insult you. It simply shows you what is there. Your recording can do the same thing for your English. Let us make this practical. Take your phone. Open the voice recorder. Choose one simple question. What was the best part of my day? Do not write an answer. Do not prepare a speech. Do not search for advanced vocabulary. Press record and speak. Maybe you say, the best part of my day was probably this morning because I finished something that I had been delaying for a few days. I didn't really want to start it, but once I started, it was easier than I expected. After I finished, I felt much more relaxed. Good. Maybe you made 2 grammar mistakes. Maybe you paused. Maybe one word did not come. That is fine. Finish your thought. Do not restart the recording because sentence number 3 was imperfect. This is extremely important. Many learners record like this. Yesterday I go, no, wait. Delete. Start again. Yesterday I went to, delete. Start again. 10 minutes later, they have recorded one perfect sentence. But what did they actually train? They trained restarting. Real conversations do not allow you to press delete every time you make a mistake. So your recording practice should teach you something much more useful: recovery. If you say, yesterday I go, sorry, I went to visit my friend, continue. If you forget a word, I can't remember the exact word, but it is something you use for, continue. If your sentence becomes confusing, let me say that another way, continue. If you lose your thought, anyway, what I was trying to say is, continue. That is real speaking training. You are teaching yourself that a mistake is not the end of communication. Now finish your recording. Maybe it is only 1 minute. Good. Then listen. But here is where I want you to be careful. Do not listen and say, everything is bad. That teaches you nothing. Instead, ask specific questions. Where did I hesitate? Which sentence was difficult to finish? Did I repeat the same word too often? Was I speaking clearly? Did my ideas connect? Could another person easily understand my main point? Now you are learning. Suppose you notice that you say, I think, again and again. Excellent. You discovered one thing to improve. Tomorrow, practice alternatives. In my opinion, for me, the way I see it, personally, I would say, then record again. Maybe the problem is not vocabulary. Maybe you notice that you begin every answer well, but after 30 seconds your ideas disappear. Now you know what to practice. Use the technique from point 5. Answer, reason, example, detail. Maybe you notice something else. You are trying to speak so quickly that words become unclear. Then your goal tomorrow is not more vocabulary. It is, slow down. Say less, but say it clearly. This is why recording is so powerful. It tells you what your English needs, not what a random textbook thinks you need, not what another learner needs. Your English, your habits, your weak points, your progress. And that makes your practice much more intelligent. Now there is one rule I want you to remember. Never try to fix everything in one recording. This is where learners become discouraged. They listen and notice. My pronunciation is not perfect. My grammar has mistakes. My vocabulary is simple. I pause too much. My accent is strong. My sentences are repetitive. My answer is not organized. Then they think, my English is terrible. No, you simply discovered 7 different skills. You cannot improve 7 skills in 1 minute. Choose one. If today's problem is pausing, work on pausing. If tomorrow's problem is sentence connection, work on connection. If the next problem is pronunciation, Work on one pronunciation pattern, small correction, repeated practice. That is how improvement becomes manageable. Imagine you are learning to play a musical instrument. If one part of a song is difficult, you do not throw away the instrument. You isolate the difficult part, you practice it, then you return to the whole song. Do the same with English. Suppose your recording contains this. Yesterday I went to the market because I needed some things, and after that I go to my friend's house and we are talking for 2 hours. Do not say, my grammar is horrible. Look specifically. You were telling a past story, but your verbs kept returning to the present tense. Good. Now you have found today's training target. Practice. I went. I needed. I visited. We talked. Then tell the story again. Not from a memorized script. Tell it naturally. Maybe the second recording becomes, yesterday I went to the market because I needed a few things. After that, I went to my friend's house and we talked for almost 2 hours. Look at that. The improvement was not mysterious. You identified one pattern and trained it. Now imagine doing that every day, one small problem at a time. Your English begins becoming cleaner without destroying your confidence. And there is another exercise I want you to try. I call it the first recording, better recording exercise. Choose a question. What is one habit I want to improve? Record yourself for 2 minutes. No preparation. Then listen once. Do not write a perfect script. Just identify 3 things. What idea was unclear? Where did you become stuck? What language could you improve? Maybe your first recording sounds like, I want to improve my sleeping because I sleep very late, and this is not good for me. And in morning I feel tired, and sometimes I cannot focus. Do not criticize yourself. The meaning is clear. Now improve it slightly. I want to improve my sleeping habits because I usually go to bed too late. As a result, I feel tired in the morning, and sometimes it is difficult for me to concentrate. Read the improved version once. Notice the useful pieces. Sleeping habits. Go to bed too late. As a result, difficult for me to concentrate. Now put the text away. Record the answer again in your own words. Maybe you say, one habit I really want to improve is my sleep schedule. I often go to bed later than I should, and because of that, I feel tired the next morning. I also notice that I cannot concentrate as well when I haven't slept enough. Beautiful. You did not memorize a speech. You upgraded your language and used it again. That is how recording becomes a learning system. Speak, listen, notice, improve, speak again. Remember that cycle. Speak, listen, notice, improve, speak again. Not speak, judge, feel embarrassed, stop. The first cycle builds a speaker. The second cycle builds fear. Now I want you to use recordings for something else. Measuring fluency, not only mistakes. This is important because learners are very good at noticing what is wrong, and surprisingly bad at noticing what has improved. Save some of your recordings. Do not delete everything. Make a folder on your phone. My English, month 1, then next month. My English, month 2. Record yourself answering similar types of questions. Maybe on the first day you answer, why are you learning English? 1 month later, answer it again. Do not listen to your old recording first. Give a fresh answer, then compare. Maybe in month 1 you said, I learn English because English is important for my work, and I want to speak with people and understand videos. Maybe in month 2, I'm learning English mainly because I want to communicate more confidently. It is also useful for my work, and I would like to understand English content without depending on subtitles all the time. You may still hear mistakes, but now listen for what changed. Your sentences are longer. Your ideas connect. You have more useful phrases. You recover faster. You sound calmer. You are not translating every 3 words. That is progress. And when you hear it with your own ears, something changes emotionally. You stop depending only on feelings, because feelings can lie to you. One day you feel, my English is getting better. The next day you forget one easy word and think, I have learned nothing. But recordings give you evidence. They can remind you. 3 months ago, I could barely speak for 40 seconds about this topic. Today I spoke for 3 minutes. That matters. Maybe your English is still not where you want it to be, but it is no longer where it was. That is what progress looks like. Now let us make the recording exercise more challenging. After you become comfortable speaking for 1 or 2 minutes, try the 3-minute no-stop challenge. Choose a topic. For example, is technology making life better? Press record. You have 3 minutes. Your goal is not to speak continuously without breathing. Your goal is to stay in English for 3 minutes. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to think. You are allowed to correct yourself. You are allowed to say, that's difficult to explain. Let me think about that. Another thing I would add is, on the other hand, for example, what I mean is, but you are not allowed to abandon the recording simply because the perfect sentence does not come. Suppose you begin, I think technology has made life easier in many ways. For example, communication is much faster now. We can talk to people who live very far away almost immediately. Good. Then you become stuck. Use a bridge. But I think there is another side to this. Continue. Technology can also make people distracted because there is always something asking for our attention. Then, for example, sometimes people sit together, but everyone is looking at their own phone. Now you are speaking again. You did not need an advanced idea. You needed a bridge. This is why recording helps so much. There is no other person waiting impatiently. You have space to discover how your own mind builds English. And once you practice building those bridges alone, they become easier to use with other people. Now there is another powerful recording method. Tell the same story 3 times. Choose a real event. Maybe the day I missed an important appointment. First recording. Tell the story naturally. Do not prepare. Maybe it takes 2 minutes. Listen. Now tell it again. This time, focus on sequence. Use at first, then, after that, a few minutes later, eventually, in the end. Now the story becomes easier to follow. Third recording. Tell the story again, but this time add feelings and details. At first I wasn't worried because I thought I still had plenty of time. Then I looked at the clock and realized I had misunderstood the appointment time. That's when I started to panic. Do you see what happened? The story became richer each time, but you did not memorize it. You learned how to tell it better. That is exactly the kind of repetition that improves speaking. Now let us use recordings to improve pronunciation. Do not try to change your entire accent. Choose one sentence, record it, then listen to a clear model. Maybe the sentence is, I really wanted to go, but I didn't have enough time. Listen to how the speaker says it, then record yourself. Compare. Are you stressing every word equally? Are you speaking too quickly? Is one word unclear? Choose one difference. Practice. Record again. This is much more useful than simply saying, I want a better accent. A better accent is too large a goal. Clearer today is a useful goal. Now let me tell you something else. Your recording should not always be about serious topics. Make it real. Record yourself while describing what you are cooking. Explain a problem you had that day. Give your opinion about a movie. Tell the story of something funny that happened. Pretend you are leaving a voice message for a friend. Explain how to do something you know well. Describe a place you visited. Talk about something you want to buy and why. Explain a decision you are trying to make. These topics matter because they are connected to your actual life, and when English becomes connected to your life, it becomes easier to remember. You stop practicing sentences like, "The cat is under the table," unless there is actually a cat under your table. You begin practicing, "I was supposed to finish this yesterday, but I became busy and had to move it to today." That is language you may genuinely need. Now imagine somebody asks you that same question in a real conversation a week later. You have already spoken about it. The ideas are familiar. Some phrases are familiar. Your mouth has already traveled that road. The answer becomes easier. This is another reason recording works. It creates rehearsal for real life without requiring memorization. Now, I want you to be careful about one thing. Do not become obsessed with listening to every recording 10 times. You are learning English, not investigating yourself. 1 or 2 listens are enough. Find the useful lesson. Move forward. Otherwise, recording can become another form of perfectionism. You begin analyzing every sound, every pause, every tiny error, and then you become afraid to speak naturally. That is not our goal. Remember, the purpose of recording is awareness, not self-criticism. You want enough awareness to make the next attempt slightly better. That is all. 1% clearer, 1 pause shorter, 1 better phrase, 1 cleaner sentence, 1 stronger ending. Small improvements, repeated over time, become large improvements. Now let us build your weekly recording routine. On Monday, answer a personal question. What is something I want to improve about myself? On Tuesday, tell a story. Something unexpected that happened to me. On Wednesday, give an opinion. Do social media platforms make communication better or worse? On Thursday, explain something. How do I organize my day? On Friday, describe a place I really enjoy visiting. On Saturday, imagine a situation. What would I do if I had 1 month completely free? And on Sunday, choose any topic and speak for 3 minutes. 7 days, 7 different speaking muscles. You are training description, storytelling, opinion, explanation, imagination, personal expression, spontaneous speaking. That is much more powerful than repeating the same prepared introduction every day. And here is something beautiful that may happen after a few weeks. At first, pressing the record button makes you nervous. You think, what should I say? Later, you press it and begin. At first, 1 minute feels long. Later, 3 minutes feels possible. At first, every mistake interrupts you. Later, you correct yourself naturally and continue. At first, you hear only problems. Later, you begin hearing improvement. At first, your voice sounds like someone trying to speak English. Eventually, it begins sounding like you expressing yourself in English. That is an important difference, because the final goal is not to become a copy of another speaker. You do not need somebody else's personality. You do not need somebody else's voice. You do not need somebody else's accent. You need the ability to express your own thoughts clearly and confidently. And recording gives you a private place to build that ability. No classroom watching you. No stranger waiting for an answer. No fear that somebody will laugh. Just you, your voice, and another opportunity to improve. But do not stay in that private space forever. Recording is training. Conversation is the game. As your confidence grows, take what you practice into real interaction whenever you have the opportunity. Speak to a friend. Join an English conversation. Answer someone without preparing. Send an English voice message. Ask a question. Give an opinion. Because ultimately, the purpose of training alone is to make speaking with others easier. Now I want you to imagine something. Today you record yourself for 2 minutes. You struggle. You pause. You forget words. You listen and think. I have so far to go. But instead of quitting, you save the recording. You practice tomorrow. and the next day, and the next. 3 months later, you find that first recording. You press play, and suddenly you hear a version of yourself you almost forgot. You hear the long pauses, you hear the hesitation, you hear how difficult it was to connect ideas. Then you record the same question again, and this time, the answer comes differently. You speak for 4 minutes. You still make mistakes, but you continue. Your sentences connect. Your examples come more naturally. You forget one word and explain it without panic. You pause, but you know how to restart. And for the first time, you have something more powerful than motivation. You have evidence. Evidence that your practice worked. Evidence that those 10 minutes mattered. Evidence that your English did not stay in the same place. And when you hear that difference, nobody has to tell you. You are improving. You can hear it yourself. So please, stop waiting until your English becomes good enough to record. Record the English you have now. Let today's imperfect voice become tomorrow's evidence of progress. Speak for 1 minute. Listen. Choose one thing. Improve it. Speak again. Then come back tomorrow. Because sometimes the teacher you need is not another video, another grammar book, or another vocabulary list. Sometimes you simply need to listen carefully to the speaker you are becoming, and that speaker is you. Point 7. Build a speaking routine that trains real fluency, not just English knowledge. Now we come to the final point, and this is where everything has to become real. Because you can understand every technique we have discussed. You can know that speaking needs practice. You can collect useful phrases. You can imitate natural English. You can learn to explain around missing words. You can practice longer answers. You can record yourself and notice your mistakes. But if all of this happens only when you feel motivated, your speaking will still improve slowly. You need something your brain can expect. A routine. Not a complicated routine that looks beautiful for 3 days and then disappears. Not 2 hours of study that leaves you exhausted. Not a plan that depends on being excited every morning. You need a simple speaking system that is easy enough to repeat and strong enough to train the skills you actually need in conversation. And I want you to understand something important before we build it. You do not need to practice everything every day. You need to practice the right things consistently. Many learners sit down and say, "Today I will improve my English," but that goal is too big. What exactly will you improve? Vocabulary? Listening? Pronunciation? Grammar? Speaking speed? Confidence? Long answers? Storytelling? When the goal is too broad, practice becomes random. So instead, give your speaking routine clear jobs. I want you to divide your practice into 4 simple parts. Warm up your voice. Borrow natural English. Produce your own English. Review one thing. That is your system. Let us go through it carefully. For the first 5 minutes, warm up your voice. Do not begin with difficult questions. Do not begin with advanced vocabulary. Your mouth needs to move before it performs. Look around and speak. It is a quiet morning today. I have a few things I need to finish. I did not sleep as early as I wanted last night, so I feel a little tired, but I think I will feel better after breakfast. Simple. Then continue. Talk about what you are doing. Talk about what you see. Talk about what happened yesterday. Tell yourself what you need to do later. The purpose is not to impress anyone. The purpose is to make English active. Think about an athlete. Before doing something difficult, they warm up. Your speaking needs a warm-up too. If you spend the whole day thinking in another language and then suddenly expect yourself to give a perfect English answer, your brain needs time to switch. Give it those 5 minutes. Now the second part. Borrow natural English. Choose a very short piece of English audio. Maybe 20 seconds. Maybe 30. Do not choose a 10-minute speech and try to imitate everything. Listen to one sentence. Suppose you hear, "The thing I realized was that I had been worrying about the wrong problem." Listen again. Pause. Repeat. "The thing I realized was that I had been worrying about the wrong problem." Now copy the rhythm. Do not only read the words. Notice how the sentence moves, then change it. "The thing I realized was that I had been studying English the wrong way." Another. "The thing I realized was that I already knew more English than I thought." Another. "The thing I realized was that I needed more speaking practice." Now the structure is becoming available to you. Choose 2 or 3 useful sentences like this. That is enough. Remember, we are not collecting as much English as possible. We are trying to make a small amount of English usable. Now the third part is the most important. Produce your own English without preparing every sentence first. Choose one open question. Not, "What is your name?" Choose something that gives your thoughts room. What is one habit I want to change? What makes someone a good friend? What is one lesson I learned recently? Would I rather live in a city or somewhere peaceful? Give yourself 3 seconds, then begin. Do not write the answer first. Do not search for difficult vocabulary. Start with what you know. Question. What is one habit I want to change? You begin. One habit I really want to change is wasting too much time on my phone. Good. Now why? Because sometimes I open it just to check one message and then realize I have spent much longer than I planned. Example? For example, if I am working and I check social media, it can be difficult to return to what I was doing. What are you doing about it? So recently I have been trying to keep my phone away from me when I need to concentrate. That is real speaking practice. Your brain created the answer as you spoke, and that is one of the most important differences between knowing English and using English. Now keep going for 2 or 3 minutes. If you forget a word, explain it. If you lose your thought, ask, why? Can I give an example? What happened next? How do I feel about it? If you make a mistake, continue. Remember the goal of this part. Train continuation. You want your brain to learn that when one sentence ends, English does not have to end with it. Now, after you finish, move into the 4th part. Review one thing, only one. This is extremely important. Do not turn a 3-minute speaking session into an hour of criticizing yourself. Listen once. Ask, what was the biggest thing that made my speaking difficult? Maybe you repeated the same word too often. Maybe your answer had no structure. Maybe you kept using the wrong tense. Maybe you paused because you were searching for vocabulary. Maybe your pronunciation became unclear when you spoke quickly. Choose the most useful problem. Suppose you notice that you used then throughout a story. Good. Tomorrow practice. After that, a little later, eventually, in the end. Now your practice has direction. This is how improvement becomes practical. Speak, notice. Improve one thing. Speak again. Now let us talk about consistency, because this is where most routines fail. You may feel very motivated today. You say, from tomorrow, I will speak English for 2 hours every day. That sounds powerful. But what happens when tomorrow is busy? You skip. Then another busy day comes. You skip again. Then you feel guilty. And after a week, the routine disappears. So I want you to create 2 versions of your routine. Your normal routine and your minimum routine. Your normal routine might be 20 minutes. 5 minutes of warm-up. 5 minutes of imitation. 5 minutes of spontaneous speaking. 5 minutes of recording and review. But your minimum routine might be only 5 minutes. On difficult days, speak for 2 minutes. Repeat one useful phrase. Answer one question. Done. Why is the minimum routine important? Because it protects consistency. A small session keeps the habit alive, and a habit that stays alive can grow again tomorrow. This is something learners often underestimate. They think a short practice session does not count. It counts. 5 minutes spoken today is more useful for your speaking habit than 0 minutes spent feeling guilty because you could not complete an hour. Do what you can, then come back tomorrow. Now I want you to make your routine slightly harder over time. This is how growth happens. Week 1. Speak for 1 minute without stopping. Week 2. 2 minutes. Week 3. Add unexpected questions. Week 4. Tell stories. Then practice opinions. Then practice disagreement. Then practice answering follow-up questions. Your routine should grow as you grow. Do not practice the same easy English forever. If you can say, "I like coffee because it tastes good," comfortably, wonderful. Now go deeper. Do you think people depend too much on caffeine? Make your brain think. If you can describe your day easily, move to storytelling. Tell me about a difficult experience. If storytelling becomes comfortable, practice abstract ideas. What does success mean to me? Is failure necessary for growth? What makes people trust each other? Your English becomes stronger when your ideas become slightly more demanding. But do not jump too far. You want the challenge to stretch you, not destroy your confidence. Now there is another thing I want you to build into your routine. Reuse. Many learners constantly search for something new. New video, new phrase, new vocabulary, new topic, new grammar lesson. But speaking needs repetition. If you learned, "What surprised me most was," today, use it tomorrow. "What surprised me most was how quickly the meeting ended." Use it again. "What surprised me most was how nervous I felt." Again. "What surprised me most was that I understood almost everything." Now the phrase becomes familiar. This is how language becomes automatic. Not because you saw it once, because you used it repeatedly in different situations. So every week, choose 10 phrases you want to own. Not 100. 10. At the end of the week, ask yourself, "Can I use these without looking?" If yes, wonderful. If no, keep them another week. Do not rush past useful English. Stay with it until your mouth knows it. Now let us bring speaking partners into this. If you have someone to practice with, wonderful. But do not waste the conversation by only chatting comfortably about the same things every time. Give each conversation one small challenge. For example, today I will ask 3 follow-up questions. Tomorrow I will explain one opinion for 2 minutes. Next time, I will practice disagreement politely. Another time, I will tell one complete story. This makes real conversation part of your training. If you do not have a partner, continue practicing alone. You can still train many of these skills. Ask yourself questions. Record your answers. Imagine follow-up questions. Speak out loud. Imitate natural English. Tell stories. Describe problems. Give opinions. The absence of a partner should not become permission to remain silent. Now I want you to think about something. What would happen if you followed a simple speaking routine for 90 days? Not perfectly, consistently. Imagine day 1. You speak for 1 minute. You pause often. You forget simple words. You feel uncomfortable hearing your own voice. That is okay. Day 10. Some familiar phrases begin appearing faster. You can talk about your routine without thinking so much. Day 30. You notice that 2 minutes does not feel as frightening. You still make mistakes, but you recover. Day 60. You can answer an unexpected question and give a reason without translating every word first. Day 90. Someone asks you something, and you begin speaking before you have prepared the full answer. This is how change happens. Not in one dramatic day. through ordinary repetition. And here is the truth I want you to remember. Your English speaking is being trained every time you choose to speak instead of only thinking about speaking. Every time you repeat a natural sentence, every time you answer a question aloud, every time you continue after a mistake, every time you explain a forgotten word, every time you listen to your recording and improve one thing, that is training, and training adds up. Now there will be days when you do not feel better. This matters. You might practice for 3 weeks and suddenly have a terrible conversation. You forget everything. You become nervous. You think, I am not improving. Do not judge your entire journey by one conversation. Maybe you were tired. Maybe the topic was difficult. Maybe the other person spoke quickly. Maybe you simply had a difficult day. Progress is not a straight line. Look at the bigger picture. Can you speak longer than before? Can you answer faster? Can you recover more easily? Can you understand more natural English? Can you explain a missing word? Can you tell a story more clearly? Those are real signs of progress. Notice them, because if you only measure yourself by perfection, you will always feel behind. Now let us talk about motivation. Do not wait for it. Motivation is beautiful, but unreliable. Some mornings you wake up excited, other mornings you do not. Your routine should work on both days. That is why I want your speaking practice attached to something you already do. Maybe after breakfast, 5 minutes of speaking. During your walk, imitation practice. Before bed, 1 recording. Attach English to life. Then practice stops depending entirely on memory or mood. It becomes part of the day. And slowly, your relationship with English changes. You stop saying, I should practice speaking. You begin saying, this is when I speak English. That is powerful, because consistency becomes easier when practice has a place. Now I want you to make your routine personal. Maybe imitation helps you more than reading aloud. Use more imitation. Maybe storytelling is your biggest weakness. Tell more stories. Maybe you speak well alone, but freeze with people. Prioritize real conversations. Maybe pronunciation makes you difficult to understand. Spend more time copying rhythm and sounds. Your routine should solve your problem. Do not blindly copy another learner's plan. The best routine is the one that targets the gap between the English you have and the English you want. Now let me give you the final version of your speaking routine. When you have 20 minutes, 5 minutes, speak about real life. Tell me what happened today. What are you thinking? What are you planning? Keep your mouth moving. 5 minutes. Imitate natural English. Listen to 2 or 3 sentences. Repeat. Copy the rhythm. Change them. Use them with your own meaning. 5 minutes. Answer 1 difficult question. No script. 3 seconds. Begin. Give a reason. Give an example. Speak through missing words. Keep going. 5 minutes. Record and review. Listen once. Find 1 improvement. Write down 1 useful phrase. Tomorrow, repeat. And when you only have 5 minutes, speak for 2. Imitate 1 sentence. Answer 1 question. That is enough. But do not disappear. Because speaking skill grows from contact. Your voice needs to meet English again and again. Now imagine several months of this. You are talking to someone. They ask, what do you think about that? There was a time when that question made you nervous. But now your mouth already knows how to begin. The way I see it, you explain. They disagree. You say, I understand your point, but I see it differently because... You continue. You forget a word. I can't remember the exact word, but what I mean is, you explain. The conversation keeps moving, and then something remarkable happens. You stop noticing the English. You notice the conversation. The other person laughs. You react. They tell a story. You ask another question. You express your own idea. And only afterward do you realize, I was speaking English without controlling every sentence. That is what all these small practice sessions were creating. Not a perfect speaker, a functional speaker, a confident speaker, a speaker who can adapt, a speaker who can recover, a speaker who knows that even when the perfect word does not come, communication can continue. That is real progress. So when you finish this lesson, please do not immediately search for 10 more videos about how to speak English. Take something from this lesson and do it. Speak for 5 minutes. Repeat 3 useful phrases. Record 1 answer. Tell 1 story. Do something that requires your own voice. Because there is a moment when learning has to stop being something you consume and start becoming something you perform. You have listened enough to understand what needs to happen. Now give your mouth the experience. Give your brain repetition. Give yourself permission to sound imperfect while you improve. And do it again tomorrow. Because the most powerful speaking routine is not the longest routine. It is not the most complicated routine. It is not the routine with the most advanced materials. It is the routine you actually repeat long enough for English to stop feeling like something you are trying to speak and start feeling like something your voice knows how to use.